Hello, welcome to episode 14 of the Bluegrass Blues podcast. This is Amy.
And I'm Jesse. All right, it's been a few days. We were all thinking about what happened last week with the No Kings protest. It's kind of interesting. We were in different parts of the country for this. You were in Louisville, and I was in Colorado. So why don't you start, since this is a Kentucky podcast? Tell me what happened in Louisville.
It was so exciting and fun and joyful and nonviolent, and you know, there were unicorns and there were frogs, and Garfield was a feline against fascism, and I think over 8,000 people showed up in Louisville. We had more than one protest. There was one down at the Belvedere, and then there were a couple, I think, in St. Matthews, Frankfort Avenue area. And then we had over a dozen statewide. Right. So we were all over the state protesting No Kings in America.
Yeah, I hear that there was one in Frankfort
Yes.
At the Capitol, and there was even one in Bardstown, which, you know, that's not the place you'd expect a big protest crowd, but we have some relatives who were there for the Bardstown protest. So you did the marching, or were you with the marching? Or were you with the speeches?
I was with all of it, and I carried my ukulele, and I played This Land Is Your Land like about 1 million times, and then I apologized to everyone around me for only learning the one song for the march, and that I would learn more than one song for the next march, but nobody seemed to care. It was jubilant. It was a gorgeous day. And we, of course, did the chants like, whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets? Our streets. And what does democracy look like? This is what democracy looks like. It was just fantastic. Now, of course, all of us were hopeful that, and you can talk about Denver, but we had wanted, over 12 million people to protest, because that's around the 3% that we apparently need to topple the authoritarian regime. Is that something you'd heard too?
Well, the number is 3.5%, and I think it's based on studies of protests in other countries, where when you get crowds that consist of 3.5% of the population, that's when you know that the regime in charge is on its way out.
Yeah.
That it's happened in other countries, and I don't know if that it applies here, but it does kind of show that the coverage has been sort of spotty on what it looks like, because I remember looking at the photo you sent of the rally in Louisville. It was on WHAS.
Yeah.
And the headline, the main stories began with thousands of people protested in Louisville. But the photo showed about 12 people on the Belvedere. And I know that in these situations, what happens is news organizations send photographers early to an event to get prepared, but the photographer will shoot some photos just to have something in the bag before the actual demonstration begins. So you got this photo of 12 people on the Belvedere, and you have the text saying thousands of people appeared, and the end result is that someone reading the story is going to look and say, well, there weren't thousands of people. There aren't even a dozen people here. You're lying to me.
Right.
Which is the problem that the media faces, that people's perception is that they're being lied to by media organizations.
Right.
But the reality is that these events do happen, and media organizations underplay them. And I think the greatest example of that was the New York Times, the Sunday Times print edition this week, because there were, like we said, there were probably 8 million people all over the country. It's the kind of thing where if 8 million Americans are out in the streets protesting, you would think that that's the top story on every newspaper in America. The New York Times had it under the fold, and for anyone who understands the print paper concept, if it's under the fold, that means it's not such a big deal. It's interesting, but it's not something to get all riled up about. But in New York, you have hundreds of thousands of people protesting. In Kentucky, you had thousands of people protesting. I was in Denver for the No Kings rally, so I was at the state capitol. And one of the things I saw was we get there, they're stopping traffic because people just can't get into it. You see this huge crowd of people surrounding the Capitol. We get out of the car, and we're senior citizens, so it takes us a while to get along or move along these days. But we have to walk several blocks in order to get to the state capitol. We were going to meet a friend of mine at this big obelisk in the middle of the grounds, and it's hard to find people when there are 30,000 people all around you. So as we're going in to see the demonstration, and there were great signs, lots of positive energy. It's like just people are dressed in very strange costumes. So there was a festive atmosphere about it. But as we're going into the heart of the crowd, there was this MAGA person. There's one MAGA person who's at the fringes yelling at people, and his gimmick was, we should praise Charlie Kirk and all this other stuff. Charlie Kirk, the right-winger who got shot and is now trying to be martyrized by the right wing. But anyway, he's talking about Charlie Kirk, and I'm watching the media people, and you have 30,000 people, and you have one guy who's protesting against the 30,000 people with the right-wing talking points, and the media camera is focused on the one guy. So, proportionately, you're getting another distortion of reality where it looks like we're doing this, there are 30,000 people, but their opinions vary from right to left on what the importance of this is. Whereas it's only one person who happened to be loud and doing a contrarian view, and that's where the media people go, which is I think a failure. That's Denver media. So you've got Denver media screwing up on that aspect of it. You've got Louisville media screwing up on the photo use, and you've got the New York Times screwing up on its placement of the story. So there's just this disconnect from reality.
And you wanted to mention MSNBC too.
Yeah, I happened to watch MSNBC the next day. Later that last week, I was in Arizona and in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area. So I was with relatives, and they watch television news. I cannot stand to watch television news, but they are loyal television news viewers, and they have on MSNBC for hours and hours in the day. And MSNBC was talking about the rally in Los Angeles. And so they have a reporter. It's early before the rally actually begins, so they're a scattering of people, again, which leaves the impression that, no one's going to be there because they're early. And there's only a few people, so the reporter can just walk in, there's open field, and you can go to anybody. And he's pretty much grabbing anyone who's walking by at the time. And so as the reporter is in the field, the anchor, who's like, how anchors talk to reporters in the field, the anchor, for some ridiculous reason, asked the reporter, "Do you feel like you're in danger?" Which was the Republican talking point, that this was going to be a violent demonstration, that you weren't going to be safe if you go there because there are all these radical lefties about to try to overthrow the government, ready to riot, ready to throw down and start all
You've
kinds
been
of
paid to show up too.
Yeah, paid by Soros. Jesus. I'm still waiting for my Soros check. I'm sure you're waiting for yours too. Yeah. But the anchor had the audacity to ask that question when you were seeing people in these funny costumes, and it was obvious that there was no problems were going to be there. But the anchor asks the stupid question not because I don't think she believed that there was any danger. I think she was trying to introduce this Republican talking point to get the reporter to say, "Oh no, that's just a stupid Republican talking point." But they never said that. The reporter said, no, I feel fine. There's no problem here, which wasn't enough. You have to say that the reason the question was asked was because the propagandists in the Republican Party or the MAGA wing of America were, well, what Mike Johnson was saying, this was a hate America rally.
Right.
They wanted more than anything for there to be violence so they could send in the troops and declare martial law. What the Republicans want is a civil war. They really want a fighting, shooting civil war where they can send troops in and crack the heads of left-wingers. But it's a peaceful demonstration. It's a peaceful rally. This is one of the, given the number of people, this was a very tame event. And I've been to other rallies I've been to rallies in Washington that have had hundreds or thousands of people in the streets of D.C. I was at the Women's March in D.C. I was at a march that was against gun violence in D.C. Pennsylvania Avenue was packed with people. There was no danger. But January 6th happens, and these are conservatives. These are like MAGA morons running around, busting into the Capitol, assaulting police officers, and the right wing says, oh, they're patriots.
Yeah.
They were just patriots.
That was the Hate America insurrection, really, and they've all been pardoned.
Right, they've all been pardoned, and they're all forgiven for everything they do, but now the Republicans are saying, oh, this was a Hate America rally, and it wasn't. It was a rally to try to preserve American values, because it's obvious that this administration doesn't believe in American values or in what the United States stands for. They're an authoritarian regime who just want oppression. They want white supremacy.
Right. Well, speaking of white supremacy, we had this unfortunate act a few days ago in Frankfort and Midway, Kentucky, around central Kentucky, around Frankfort, where the Ku Klux Klan littered the towns with Nazi propaganda, white supremacy propaganda. I didn't see the content of the posters because on TV news everything was turned upside down, so they just look like blank pieces of paper.
Which is another problem with TV news, or with the media in general, is that they hide these truly evil things from public view. So you see just paper on the ground and you think, well, that's just a paper on the ground. So what's the big deal?
Yeah, so they're littering.
Yeah,
Nazis are littering.
Yeah, that's Nazi litter. I mean, that's as far as it goes. But you turn the paper around, and they never turn the paper around because they think it's offensive. And if it's offensive, that's why you should see it. It's this sort of media mentality where they don't want to show you certain things because they consider it offensive. But the people who are committing these atrocities are getting away with just these huge offenses that people are seeing no matter what. And I will give another example of this. After the rally, Donald Trump had this AI video of him in a crown in a fighter jet flying over demonstrators, and he's dumping, I have to say, he's dumping shit on them.
Yeah.
And, I saw, I'll attach the video to this podcast at the end so people can see what happened there. But when I saw the headlines in various newspapers, it was saying Donald Trump has a controversial ad where he's flying a fighter jet. It never says
he's dumping his human excrement all over the American
He's shitting on America.
Yeah, he's shitting on America.
And it's this sort of like, I've seen this term, the enshittification of America. This is what Donald Trump is doing.
Yeah.
But they don't show that because they don't want to offend people. So you don't want to offend people because the Nazis are putting Klan flyers in the streets of Frankfurt. You don't want to offend people because Donald Trump is shitting on America. You don't want to offend people by saying that, by asking stupid questions about, do you feel that it's dangerous to be where you are, which, just pours into the paranoia of the right wing. And as a result, everything is so sanitized in favor of Trump, the Trump presidency, and in favor of MAGA, and in favor of just these atrocious people that you don't think that they're a danger at all. They just think that, oh well, they're saying that the right wing is doing this, but the left wing is doing this, and the Republicans are saying the left wing is having a Hate America rally, while the left wing is saying that the Republicans are fascist. And I don't know who's to decide.
Right.
Just give the people really what's going on. You should show Donald Trump taking a dump on America. Mm-hmm. You should show the evil of the pamphlet that the Klan is putting in our streets that children can pick up mm-hmm. and see. The Donald Trump video children mm-hmm. can see. And I have to go one more step on the media itself. So again, more on MSNBC, which is considered the left wing
right.
or the leftist media.
Yeah.
In prime time, they have this panel discussion, and one of the panelists is Michael Steele, who's the former head of the RNC, the Republican National Committee, a black guy. He was appointed by the Republicans during the Obama administration because Republicans wanted a black guy to show that they actually cared about black people, which they don't. So Michael Steele, a Republican, a right-winger on the allegedly liberal network MSNBC, is, he's giving this impression that Republicans really are against, true Republicans are really against the evils of the Trump regime. But in the course of his segment, he refers to this article in Politico that says that, we should be careful about the left-wing Democrats getting into power because they're going to do the abuses that Trump is doing. Where's the justification for that? Where does that come from?
Right.
We've had Democratic presidents. We had Obama in the White House when Republicans were saying he was going to do all kinds of evil things like introduce Sharia law because he was secretly a Muslim and that he hated America, or Bill Clinton was going to do all these awful things, or Joe Biden was being a fascist. This is what Republicans were saying, and Michael Steele was behind a lot of that stuff that happened during the Clinton administration and especially during the Obama administration. And now he's on MSNBC reading this story saying, oh, these things are bad with Republicans in power because they're abusing power, but we have to be careful because Democrats will get into power and they'll start abusing power because now they can get away with it. It's just ridiculous.
So Jesse, I want to segue to this image of the White House being demolished. Why haven't Democrats just been holding press conferences right in front of the demolition site? Like, why do the Republicans continue to win the framing war?
Because I think the news organizations are afraid of being sued by Donald Trump. Because we've seen in the past year that who's acquiesced to Donald Trump? ABC has given him millions of dollars. The CBS has given him millions of dollars. Various outlets are paying him off, even though if they took these cases to court, Trump would lose. A judge will stop this. But because of corporate interest and because of the impact on the stock market, ABC, New York Times was sued by them. They're fighting, but that's a rarity. Universities have been sued by him, and they're paying him off. He's an extortion racket, and I don't know why. Well, Democrats should have been in front of the White House as it was being torn down,
right.
Because
the People's House.
It's the People's House, and I'm going to be very offensive here, but to me, it's almost like Al Qaeda going and doing a demolition on the White House. If Al Qaeda had actually succeeded in what it wanted to do back on September 11, 2001, one of their targets was the White House, and they were going to fly a plane into it. Donald Trump essentially has flown his Republican plane, which he's probably gotten from Qatar.
Which shit keeps coming out of, apparently.
Right, and he's destroyed the East Wing of the White House.
Mm-hmm.
He's taken a classic facade that's been built with. If you see pictures of it, it's like this. It contained marble floors and old wood paneling, which is very. It's expensive, but it's also something you really want for building a house. It's something really structurally sound and very elegant, and
in proportion with the White House itself.
Right, and he's decided that he's going to build a ballroom. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a plan. There isn't even a plan registered on what this ballroom is going to be.
Right.
It's just he went in, he tore down the White House, and no one's. This is a flaw of the Democratic Party. This is something where they should have been out in front of the construction site every day, every hour.
Right.
And they should be saying, look, this guy is destroying the White House.
Right.
This is America's
with the sound of the demolition, with
right.
the sight of the demolition, coughing on the, smoke coming out of the demolition. I just don't understand. Where are they?
I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. And one of the things about the demolition of the White House is I lived in Washington. I was working for the Washington Post. And during the Trump administration, one of the things, if you've been to Washington, and a lot of people have been there, I'm sure a lot of listeners have been there, but when you go to Washington, you walk along Pennsylvania Avenue, and there's a fence, and behind the fence you can see the White House. And it's just something you get your kids, you take your pictures in front of the White House. It shows that you've been to America's capital. You've seen the place that the president lives. This is important. This is part of American history. This is something that you want to have in your family album. When Donald Trump was president the first time, he put barricades in front of the White House so you couldn't see it from Pennsylvania Avenue. So now he's tearing down the White House, and okay, I'm going to say it, but if Obama had done it, they'd be apoplectic about it.
Right.
The Republicans would be just on Fox News
because they win at the framing wars every time.
Yeah, it's a framing war, and it's something where I will also say Democrats don't have a propaganda channel. Republicans have a propaganda channel, and it's called Fox News, and it's anything that's owned by Rupert Murdoch, who now runs American media. It's just that. So,
And then the price tag, the $300 million price tag now. While, children are going hungry, and we're losing our health care and special ed.
And we're in the middle of a government shutdown.
Right.
Let's call it what it is.
Right.
Jeffrey Epstein shutdown, mm-hmm. because the reason the government is closed isn't because they're fighting over what the finances will be or what the budget is. The reason the government is closed is because Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House, doesn't want to vote on the Epstein files. And what he's done is he's made sure that the duly elected representative from Arizona isn't being installed.
Right.
He's on TV saying, well, we can't install because the government's closed and Congress isn't meeting. Whereas in the past months, whenever Republicans win elections, they get installed. They go through the whole process. So it's all a lie. The Republicans are constantly lying, and now we're in this phase where, like you say, this tear down of the White House, which American media should also be appalled by. But it's Donald Trump, so it's acceptable, I guess. And as I said, there's no plan for the ballroom itself, because you are supposed to have construction permits, and you're supposed to have a plan.
And you're supposed to go through the historical preservation.
Right.
There are
historical
steps.
preservation. I live in a historical preservation area, mm-hmm. and we had to put a balcony on we have a balcony, and we wanted to put a new railing on the balcony. And we couldn't do it unless we went through the historical preservation process, where we had to draw the plans, we had to deliver it to the this board. They were going to look it over, and they were going to say yes or no. There was another incident on this block that I live, where someone was putting in a new balcony. They didn't go through the process, and they got a stop work permit or a stop work notice on their house. So for close to a year, there was this half-built balcony just across the way from where I live. It was really ugly, and it didn't get repaired until like a couple of weeks ago, because it was in time for the art show, which is this big event in Louisville. And you wanted the neighborhood to look nice, so they allowed the construction of this balcony that they had rejected because it didn't go through the historical preservation process.
Right.
So that's Louisville, Kentucky.
Right.
That's a small...
On a pedestrian court.
Right. But meanwhile,
Yeah.
we're tearing down the White House
Yeah.
at an expense of hundreds of millions of dollars to build a vanity project for...
The king.
Yeah, that's right. You know, you've seen his...
It's Versailles.
You've seen the White House. You've seen he puts gold trim on everything. It's just...
Because he's not going to leave.
He doesn't intend to leave. But he's old, and he'll probably die off eventually. But it's still going to be a Republican in power, even if he died in office.
Right.
Like, we'd have J.D. Vance in the White House.
Right.
Maybe he's as tasteless as Trump is, but we're just kind of stuck where we are right now because we don't have representatives fighting for us. My complaints about our local representative have been consistent. He should be out in the various districts in which Republicans aren't having town hall meetings. He should be out there doing the town hall meetings, but he doesn't. He's just like, he does town hall meetings in Louisville, which is like, okay, this is safe. I'm not going to offend anybody. And now the result of that is that the Republicans in this state are eventually going to take away his seat because they're going to redistrict Louisville so that it doesn't have a Democratic representative.
Right.
And, if you look at the demographics of Kentucky, the state is, 81% white and maybe 9% black, and the rest are Asian and Hispanic. There's going to be no representative of minorities in this state because it's all going to be Republican.
Right.
And there's no effort by Democrats on the state level, on the local level, or on the national level to just throw off the boxing gloves and just start fist fighting.
Right.
Because that's what they should be doing.
Speaking of, and I want to go back to the price tag of $300 million, Argentina during the shutdown. Let's talk about the $40 billion bailout of Argentina. Why?
Because Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, he has friends who have invested in Argentine bonds. And so the Argentine economy is going to collapse eventually. And, it's something that people in Kentucky probably don't care about, even though healthcare is being taken away and food benefits, the SNAP program is being taken away, and other things that preserve like the quality of life
Right.
in this state are going to be taken away. But we're sending. It was $20 billion. Now it's $40 billion, and we're giving that to Argentina. Not because we really care about Argentina. Does the Trump administration care about Latin America? No, unless there's a MAGA person in charge, and then he will acquiesce to whatever that MAGA person wants. But even in that instance, they're not going to send money unless there are very rich people in America who have a financial stake in these areas.
Right.
So, Bessent, who, here's the best part, he used to work for George Soros. This is, of course, I was just doing my own research on this because that's what I do. I was a former journalist, so I'm looking up stuff, and I'm always looking for these flaws in stories. But anyway, he worked for George Soros when the issue with George Soros that made him the the hated among the ruling classes was George Soros made a bet against the UK pound, and as a result, the pound dropped in value, but Soros ended up getting billions of dollars as a result. Bessent was the guy who was with Soros doing this, and now he's in the Trump administration, which, when the Trump administration decides it's going to attack liberals, he says they're funded by George Soros. So this is all absurd. Anyway, Bessent's friends have invested in Argentina. They have huge investments in Argentina. So you prop up the Argentina by sending them $40 billion. His friends will be able to take their money out before the collapse happens, and then they have their money. I'm sure that the Trump administration is being paid off. I'm sure someone's getting a payout out of this. And when everything collapses in Argentina, the American citizens who don't have health care, don't have food, are
Housing,
living day to day, just they don't even have a good paycheck.
Right.
That's who's
Jobs.
going to be hurt, not the rich people here,
No.
and not the leaders in power of Argentina. So,
Speaking of that, we're seeing that consumer prices in September rose to a pace not seen since January. We're going into the holidays, Jesse, and people are starting to think about Thanksgiving and their meals and everything, and these price tags at the grocery stores are just horrendous.
right. Didn't Trump win because he was going to reduce food prices?
Right.
I think I remember that. Do you remember it?
Yeah.
So it's
And the farmers with the beef.
Let's go. Yes,
Yeah.
let's go back to Argentina.
Yeah.
Trump has said he's going to get beef from
Yeah.
Argentina
Yeah.
when American beef farmers are struggling. He's going to bring in beef that will be from Argentina that's cheaper than American beef.
Right.
So American beef farmers are going to keep struggling. But I will take this one step further. Farmers are overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump, which it blows my mind because the farmers who are complaining today were aware of what was going on when Trump was president the first time and when he screwed farmers then. And so they voted for him again. So now soybeans, which was a huge crop in America, they're like no sales at all because Trump has offended China. So China's going to Latin America for soybeans. Beef prices are going up. So Trump has decided, okay, let's bring in some Argentine beef. So let's give more money to Argentina to prop up their government so they can pay off the billionaires in the United States who have invested in Argentina. There's going to be no health care, no food stamps, and we're coming into Thanksgiving when people are going to realize my children are starving and I don't have the money to pay for this, and the government's closed, so we're not going to get money from them. What does this mean for Social Security? They say that Social Security is going to be fine, but the Republicans have consistently talked about getting rid of Social Security or making it like something that Wall Street will take over as opposed to the government will take over. We're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of getting depressed now.
Yeah, well, I don't want you to be depressed. I want to say a couple of positive things. One is that...
Before you say positive things,
let's stay negative.
I have to still be negative because we were talking about health care, and there was a story recently about Republicans in Kentucky are trying to pass a law that will remove fluoride from water.
And by the way, when I ran for state representative in 2006, and one of the things that I researched, because my dad was a periodontist, was that Kentucky has the highest adult toothlessness rate in the country. So already we don't have teeth, right?
Right, yeah.
We're all rotten.
Right.
And
now we're going to remove fluoride from the water because... Why are we removing fluoride from the water? Okay.
It's like wearing helmets.
No, it's because we have
government overreach.
Well, yeah, but we also have an insane person running the U.S. Health Department.
Yeah.
So
Fluoride causes autism.
Well, no.
That's
if
coming.
Fluoride causes autism. Vaccines cause autism.
Yeah. Tylenol.
Tylenol causes autism. Fluoride is bad for you, and vaccines are going to kill you. Now, this comes from a Secretary of Health who's a heroin addict. Now, and we would say he used to be a heroin addict. No, but in alcoholism, if you're an alcoholic, if you were and you're recovering, you're still a recovering alcoholic. So let's say a recovering heroin addict who had worms in his brain. He had worms in his brain. His brain was being eaten by worms. That's a line in a Pink Floyd song about someone going insane. And he chainsawed the head off a whale. He took a dead bear and put it in his car and left it in Central Park. And let's get to the vulgar part, he's a rapist. And this is the Secretary of Health who's telling people that vaccines are bad for you. Putting stuff in, help, everything that you're doing to improve people's health is supposed to be bad for you. And he ran for president, and he has a following, and now he's Secretary of Health. And so I'm sure I have a point here, but it goes back to the let's make America toothless. He gave out these MAHA hats, make America healthy again. Mm-hmm. But everything they're doing is to take away health care. And that's, this is where it really comes down to. It's not about what these health benefits are. It's about the cost and how can you get the money to billionaires instead of to the people who need them, the people who are paying taxes.
That's so interesting because I did just see an article about kids in one of the Nordic, one of the Scandinavian countries, and how they noticed that when those kids went outside and had fresh air and were playing outside, and of course their education system is very much superior to ours. Their healthcare systems, their tax rates are higher than ours, but their quality of life is so much higher. And
right.
But these kids are so much healthier. But they're, basically what I was reading was, but there's no money to be made on these healthy kids. Like, why do we want healthy kids? Because then they're not going to go to the doctors, and they're not going to have drugs, and they're not going to buy packaged foods. And
so you're saying there's no money to be made because...
Well, they're healthy.
Oh, so the medical establishment won't get
mm-hmm.
money. The pharmaceutical
food
companies
industry. Mm-hmm.
won't get money. The food industry will live healthy.
I mean, think about it right now, Jesse. When you have a shortage of cash, do you buy fresh, organic produce, or do you buy Kraft mac and cheese?
If you have a shortage of cash, you go to the Dollar General and you buy whatever is cheapest.
Foods.
Yeah, whatever you can afford. And I grew up poor in Brooklyn, and it was like dinner was chicken wings and something from a box, and it was about having your stomach full at night. It wasn't about the health quality of these foods. It was about not starving.
Right.
Now we're getting to the point where we're not even going to deal with the not starving. We're just going to starve people to death, and we're taking away SNAP benefits so that people like Elon Musk can get bigger tax breaks. Elon Musk, who has his fortune is now $430 billion. Or Larry Ellison, the number 2 richest man in the world. He's going to get tax breaks, and he just bought CBS, so now he controls that media system.
Right.
Another billionaire. You got Jeff Bezos. He runs the Washington Post.
And all of them are apparently funding the ballroom. Did you notice the corporate names that are financing
I have not noticed the names,
ballroom?
but that sounds like something we should have expected,
Mm-hmm.
where it's really about rich people figuring out ways to continue to be rich, and they really don't give a damn about
And
it.
Trump is suing so that he can get his $230 million back from all the lawsuits that have been, falsely perpetrated against him.
Well, let's not say falsely, because the lawsuits are legitimate.
Yeah, right.
If you say the word falsely,
Right.
then you give the
Good
impression
point.
that, this is Trump says that he's been falsely accused.
Right.
He's a con man. He's
Right.
always been a con man. I've said this many times. I grew up in New York in the 70s. I've been a witness of Donald Trump in action from forever. God, it's 50 years. 50 years of Donald Trump. And he is the same person now as he was back in the days when he was out partying with Jeffrey Epstein.
And having sex with underage girls.
Yeah, not having sex with molesting.
Molesting,
You
raping.
can't have sex with underage children. It's all about wording. It's
Right.
like he was having sex with young victims.
Yeah.
No, he was raping little girls. He and Jeffrey Epstein were doing this, as was Prince Andrew, who's now trying to say that Prince Andrew was. I think they just revealed that Prince Andrew in England, who was an Epstein client, it was just revealed that when the young woman who accused him of rape, Andrew had investigators look into her. So, we have to watch how we say things, and we have to be very concise in our language, because by neutralizing what we say, we allow evil to we allow the expansion of evil, because it sounds nicer than what it really is.
Right.
So grown men don't have sex with underage girls.
Yes.
Grown men rape children.
Yeah.
That's what
That's
that is. And that's how it should be approached.
Yes.
But again, the problem in media circles is that we're looking for language that's not going to upset people as they eat their oatmeal in the morning. So we go for the neutral language that sort of, what's the word? It sort of sanitizes.
Well, we do on the left, but it's not very sanitized on the right against Democrats.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the language, actually dropping shit on America, that's not sanitary,
Right, that's right. It's kind of vile.
Yeah.
But the problem here is that the media on the leftist media, quote unquote, never uses those words.
Right.
It never says that.
Right.
If, I hate doing this, but if Obama had done it, Fox News would have said Barack Obama is dumping shit on America. They would have found a way to use those words or to use something very close to it. But the left media, and there is no, that's another mistake I'm making, there is no left media. That doesn't exist. The mainstream media doesn't want to offend.
Well, Fox News is mainstream media.
Fox News, but it used to be extreme.
It's mainstream now.
Yeah, because the country has moved from what it used to be to a very right-wing nation. If you look at, you compare this country to any other country in the world, and we lived in Europe for several years, and a Democrat in the United States at that time was the equivalent of a conservative in Europe, which means that a Republican was, like beyond comprehension in a European country, because they were just so far to the right. So there is, and we have steadily gone to the right, and there has been no curb on what the right is doing. And we have no leaders who are going to stop this. It's do we hear Chuck Schumer complaining about the building of the ballroom? I don't know. Maybe he did, but that doesn't appear on anything. We don't hear Hakeem Jeffries talking about the building of the ballroom. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries won't even endorse the mayoral candidate in New York, who is definitely a Democratic socialist.
Right.
A Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez type of person.
Right.
Because they don't want to offend the people on the right. Or they don't want to offend the money people who are going to pay for their campaigns.
Right.
Now, let's go.
So yesterday I had a really beautiful day. My son had a birthday, and we went to the Red River Gorge, and we did this amazing hike to see Gray's Arch. So Kentucky.
What's Gray's Arch?
it's a natural formed arch that, over hundreds of millions of years, not just in the past 6,000 years, right?
Well, the Earth is only, what,
Exactly. But this natural arch has been formed by water, and so you can hike up to it, and it's a stone arch, and there are all these like cliff caves, and there are rhododendrons. It's very, very lush. Some old trees in there. Just gorgeous hike yesterday. Great views of the gorge. Right now, it's really, really beautiful out. October is just such a beautiful month here. So get out in nature. I told my son yesterday that one of the things that will never fail him is just getting out in nature. If people disappoint him, which they will, we are complicated human beings, go out in nature because she heals and she's wonderful to be around. The other thing I told him was that the gorge almost got flooded for a dam project by the Army Corps of Engineers over 50 years ago. And the Sierra Club went door to door to people who lived in the Red River Gorge area and talked to them about, do you want this dammed up? And they explained what the ramifications would be and things like that. And people power, this was a grassroots campaign, and I think it was the first campaign that really defeated a project by the Army Corps of Engineers. And it now, people from all over the world come to the Red River Gorge to go rock climbing. It is a destination, and we make a lot of money on tourism there because it is absolutely exquisitely beautiful. So I was really happy to get to go there.
Is that is it a state thing or is it a federal thing? Just in terms
State.
of the closure of the federal government, it's not affected by that.
Right. I mean, that's interesting. I've now been affected a couple times because I'm such a nature girl. One was I was up in Michigan and I wanted to get my forever pass to national parks. That's something you can get when you're 62. I think it's like $85 or something. And I was at Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore and they were closed. And this week was the Orionide meteor shower. Every year we rotate into debris left from Halley's Comet, and it generates these amazing meteor showers. And I was told that what we see, these fireballs, the debris is like no bigger than the size of a thumb, of a fingernail, and it just makes these incredible meteor showers. And I went down to Mammoth Cave because it's an international dark sky area. It doesn't have light pollution, and it's a really great place to see the stars and meteor showers. But there were no facilities open. You couldn't go to the bathroom. The visitor center was closed. I was just glad that we could drive in and just put our blanket down and look up at the stars in the middle of the night for hours. I thought it might have been gated shut, but it wasn't. So yeah, it's
so
real.
you can access a national park, or
we drove in, and it wasn't gated. Now you can't do a cave tour. Those things are definitely closed down. And I think about people like me who would take my family on these trips, and you'd plan months ahead, a year ahead, and all those vacations are now altered because of the closure of these federal spaces.
Right. And as you're traveling, you also have the problems with just air travel in general, because TSA is under TSA people won't be paid, or air traffic controllers won't be paid. My trip to Denver, it was the worst airplane flight I've been on in years, and it may not be related to the TSA, but I don't know. I don't know if they would have steered us around. The problem that we had was, as we're flying from Louisville to Denver, everything's smooth, and then we get into Nebraska, and you look out the window, and on our right there are these very ugly, huge clouds. And this is what's amazing. When I was on the plane, I got a tornado alert on my phone, even though my phone was not supposed to do that. my phone started buzzing, and I looked, and it said, "There's a tornado. Find cover." So I look out the window over Nebraska, and there are these huge, ugly-looking clouds. And as a person in a plane, I'm thinking, okay, the clouds are over there. The sky is clear over there. Obviously, we're going to go around the clouds. But it was like, what was that? Going on a bear hunt, that children's book.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go over it.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go under it. Let's go through it. And we went through these clouds, and it was, the bouncing. And the thing I hate most in any flight is when you take a dip and you feel like you're rising out of your seat. That happened. And so, I'm thinking, is this because the the air traffic controllers aren't working, and we're just going for the simplest way to get through this storm, or maybe this is something they normally do?
I'm flying out of Chicago O'Hare, which is, I think, one of the world's,
It is the world's busiest airport.
So, and I'm nervous about it. I'm doing an international flight in a week and a half or so. So,
Where are you going?
Italy.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Again with my son.
They have air traffic control in Europe.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. It's just sort of getting out of Chicago and then getting over there. That's concerning to me. But I want to stay positive, if that's okay, because it is very easy to be critical right now, and justifiable. I do want to say that these rallies do make a difference, but we can go further, and we really need to go further. And now there's a group called blackoutthesystem.com, Blackout the System, and what they're talking about is basically shutting down the U.S. economy. And
that's positive.
well, the reason why is, removing our labor, our spending, our financial support, forcing the system to listen, right? Because we're being oppressed by this system, and it seems like just follow the money. It's like all money speaks kind of thing. So the next, this boycott is November 25th to December 2nd. So if you think about Black Friday and Black Monday and all those things, basically they're asking people not to support big business. Definitely support your locally owned stores, community-owned stores. Community, it's about community, but it's not about supporting corporate America. Now, they go further, which there's privilege involved here. They say no work, no spending, no travel, no projects, no events, no restaurants, no backing out. So for people who have privilege, who can not show up to work, without worrying about losing their job and things like that, or not travel because of work and things like that, that's I think it could be very powerful, because it's all about the money.
Again, when is that?
It's November 25th to December 2nd. That's the next one.
So is that after or before Thanksgiving?
It's before Thanksgiving, through the holiday, through that weekend.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it must
through
be
that
after
week.
Thanksgiving, because December is not Thanksgiving.
Well, November 25th to December 2nd.
Okay, I think Thanksgiving's the 22nd.
No, I don't think so. My
Okay.
daughter's birthday's, I think it's the 27th.
Okay.
Yeah, so it starts before Thanksgiving.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to be flying then too. I'm going to take a trip to D.C. Why would I do that? And then I'm going to take a trip to New York. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a Thanksgiving with my family in the New York area.
It's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving to the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, and that's how you get like that whole weekend of all those deals by Amazon and Apple and all the corporations. Really do try not to spend a lot of money that week, and really we've got to see them suffer.
Okay. Let's see. Any more bright news you have? Or
Well, that's the big one, but stay in community. Oh, I do want to share. I saw this really inspiring video by Jane Goodall right before she died, and I know that she was speaking to us, from the grave, really. And what she basically says is, well, one thing she does say is she would love to ship Trump and Musk and Bezos and all these bad people up to Mars and get rid of them, and that was kind of entertaining.
Yeah, they're never going to Mars.
But what she says is that each of us matters and that each of us has a contribution to make, and we may not know what that is, but to keep being out there and doing our best, because each of us has value, and I think it's really important. For a lot of people who didn't show up at the rallies because they were afraid, no judgment from me at all. These rallies are not for everybody, but some of those people I know gave money instead of going. They might be immunocompromised. There are reasons that people don't go into crowds, right? Sensory issues. So there are all kinds of ways for us to participate in fighting fascism. And I think it's really important that we realize that each of us has a role to play.
Okay. And just one little bright thing I'd like to make a reference to. And I've been trying to get this cheesecake from this place called Big Nita's Cheesecake in Louisville.
Yeah.
There was a story about it in the local media. I think it was in the Courier Journal and in another local outlet, which says that this place is just impossible to get cheesecake from because it's so popular that people line up hours before the place opens, and the cheesecake just goes immediately. So this week, actually yesterday, I walked from my home in Old Louisville up to Main Street in the eastern part of the city, and they're already sold out. Okay, so I got to Big Nita's, and I looked at the store was closed. It was today's Friday. It was Thursday, and they're only open on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you know how most stores have hours of operation. Their hours of operation are essentially, we're going to open at this time, and we're going to stay open until all the cheesecakes are sold out.
Right.
And they are constantly sold out. So
on Saturday, they're just open from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. or until sold out, and right. Sunday 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's 2 hours, or until sold out.
Right, and today they were opened like from 1 to 6, or supposedly that.
Friday 1 to 6,
yeah.
Or until sold out.
Oh, yeah, and you know, when I got there, the sign yesterday said sold out. So one of these days I'm going to get there and I'm going to get a cheesecake, and I'm going to see if it's worth the wait. And judging from all the reviews of it, it's definitely worth the wait. So
support your small, locally owned business.
No matter how short it's open.
Yeah.
But
they have pre-orders available right now, so you should get online and maybe order something in advance.
Yeah, okay.
Cheesecake in advance.
That's, you would just like to walk up and I really prefer I'm going to walk up and just get something and that'll be it.
And you were walking 7 miles, so you deserve a slice of cheesecake before you
It was a 7-mile
home.
walk from my house and back to Big Nita's, but I ended up going to Jeff's Donuts at Paris Town Hall, and
Another good
they're pretty good.
Place.
So people keep buying locally owned while you have the money to do it, and I will get my cheesecake one of these days.
Yes,
so
we look forward to hearing all about that, Jesse.
Yes, it's the simple pleasures.
Indeed.
Of life, and I don't have to worry about politics or anything. I just pig out. That'll be good. So we're almost an hour into this podcast. I think it's time we wrap it up.
All right. See y'all in a couple of weeks. Take good care.
And people go to our website. That's the bluegrassbluespodcast.com. I'll have this podcast up on it. And
read our blog posts. Jesse writes almost every single one of those, and they're awesome. Yeah. And they're almost daily.
I try to do it daily. If I can't do it daily, I'll do multiple blog posts in a day. So thanks for listening, and we will be back in a couple of weeks.
Bye.
Bye. Our closing music is by John Chamberlain.